I saw this study recently that, for me at least, really opened my eyes. It looked at men and women and the reasons they cheat. Now, before seeing this study, I mainly believed in the conventional explanations of why women cheat. Like, I wasn't fulfilling her emotional needs, or she was still attached to her ex, or she just has issues with commitment and staying loyal. Well, after seeing this study, I've realised these points have been missing a huge component, and that is, as you've seen from the title and thumbnail, looks. So, let's get straight into it. The study spanned across 5 countries, all with very different dating traditions and economic circumstances. However, surprisingly, the results were extremely similar with regard to the importance of looks in cheating, no matter which country was being studied. There were a total of 3,000 married couples that took part. Anyway, what the researchers found was 5 factors which correlated with how likely a woman is to cheat. These were her opinion on the amount of love in the marriage, number of children, finding other men attractive, sexual fulfillment in the marriage, and whether the current husband is also cheating or not. Now, 2 seconds before I reveal the results, I want you to just picture how you'd rank these yourself so you can see how good your judgment is. Anyway, here are the rankings from most critical to least, and here are the ratings of how correlating they are. At first glance, it's interesting to see the level of sexual fulfillment went to the bottom, because there's a common notion people say, if you can't satisfy your woman, she'll find someone else that will. I guess there is at least some degree of this factor being true, as the correlating factor was still 0.07, but maybe it's just not as important as people think. I have some more analyses about this data. Firstly, I think this point about the husband cheating is unlikely to be a causal factor, as in it's unlikely the wife will also want to cheat out of revenge. Instead, what I believe is it's merely correlated. The reason I think this is because in most couples, I believe you'll see the more conservative people getting together and pairing off, then you'll also get the more liberal crowd getting together and pairing off. Or to put it another way, if a woman has a partner count of 1 or 0, it's unlikely she'll be considering a man who has a partner count of 600 long term. And in fact, if you believe she wouldn't care at all, you're actually quite deluded. Instead, what will likely happen is this woman will go with a man who has a count of 4 or 5, then the man with 600 will go with a woman who has 40 to 50. And based on these numbers, you'll find in these high partner count relationships, both partners are way more likely to cheat than the ones that both have low partner counts. So, back to the point, I think we can write off this factor, or at the very least assume its significance is greatly decreased. Secondly, I think this factor about a lack of love in the relationship is also overplayed. Because though there might be an element of a lack of love leading to a woman wanting to cheat, I believe there also is an equal, if not greater amount of the reverse. For example, a third factor causes the woman to cheat, and from there she believes the love is ruined. What she misses is she was the one who destroyed it in the first place. So, similar to the husband cheating, I think this love factor is also off the table, or at the minimum reduced by a fair amount. What does this leave us with? I believe the answer is better looking guys. When we bring back the TikTok from the beginning, we see exactly how this could play out. At this point, when the Giga Chad looks at her, for a few seconds she forgets about the beta boyfriend sitting next to her, and instead all her attention and admiration is fixated on this man. I think people often forget that cheating is an emotional decision, not a logical one. People who cheat are often fueled by infatuation and cannot control their primal desires. not thinking about the consequences long term. And when you break this woman's actions down by logic, you can see this makes sense because what she gets out of it is 5 seconds of validation from Chad, while the repercussions is a cascade of problems in her relationship with a reasonably high chance of him leaving her, which is hardly a worthwhile trade to make thinking logically. However, none of this matters because the enemy of logic is emotions. And right at this point, when the Giga Chad steps down to look at her, she's zoned out of logic and instead will do whatever her emotions tell her to do. Next, diving deeper into the study to find why looks is such an important factor for whether a woman will cheat or not. The study shows it all comes down to what's named the dual mating strategy. This simply means women have 2 priorities when seeking a male partner. 1, good genetics, which is found in a good face, height and frame. And 2, provider potential in order to raise children, found in wealth, personality and kindness. Now, not all women have high enough value to find both in a man. So, for those that had to settle for an unattractive boyfriend with a good personality, there is an incentive to cheat behind his back with a Chad to ensure children are born with good, healthy genetics. I have 3 quotes from the study confirming this. 1. Physical attractiveness is more heavily weighted by women when they are seeking short-term as opposed to long-term mates. 2. In a study of Romanians, women who were already in attached heterosexual relationships placed more importance on the physical characteristics of potential mates than did single women. So, these women may have sought an affair with a man with genes superior to the husband's. 3. The good genes hypothesis. Wives tend to have affairs with men who are superior to their husbands in social status or attractiveness. Furthermore, around ovulation, when fertilization is possible, women increase their preference for physically attractive, dominant men. All of these things point to the same thing. Women have an incentive to cheat if they find themselves with a less attractive man. And it all links back to them wanting the best genes for their children. Now, for those of you that are feeling a little angry or annoyed right now, I wouldn't, because this all makes perfect logical sense too. After all, what is the purpose of reproduction? Quite obviously, to reproduce. And the most effective strategy for this is by reproducing with only the highest quality partners with the best genes. Now, to avoid this video being all doom and gloom, what can you actually do about this? We've established women are more likely to cheat when there's better looking men available, but what do you have in your power to mitigate the chance of this happening? I believe the answer is looks maxing. Let me get one thing clear. Everybody knows making yourself more attractive doesn't affect your genes. However, this doesn't matter. It's still important because our stupid human brains can't always recognise whether a person is attractive because of their genetics or their behaviours. Now, you can try to categorise features into either of these two. For example, face and height usually falls under genetics, while physique usually falls under behaviour. But that's too binary for our brains to process and misses all these grey areas in the middle. What if a man has a good physique because he works hard and has naturally good muscle building genetics? What if someone gets a nose job to make their face more attractive? What if someone wears shoe lifts to make themselves seem taller than they actually are? It is these grey areas that allow you to make yourself look like you have better genes, but in reality you are just frauding and all you've really done is do the right behaviours. To prove this works, you'd be shocked that women are just as good at fooling men with this too. In fact, they're miles ahead and are masters of it. all of us would agree this woman is highly attractive, and we'd assume this means she has good genes. However, when I show the before photo, you realise you've been fooled, and the only reason she looks like she had better genes was because she was wearing makeup. So, my point is, don't get disheartened by thinking, women only care about genetics, and if you're not born with the right genetics, you're basically screwed. And if you do get a girlfriend, she'll cheat on you with Chad anyway. Because, although some of this may be true, it's not the full story. You can always increase the perception of how good your genes appear, at least to some degree, through behaviours. I'm not saying you'll be able to revolutionise your appearance or turn into a Chad. Of course everyone has their ceiling, but you will be able to somewhat mitigate the average hand you've been dealt if you do things correctly. And that's why so many of us in this community are obsessed with looks maxing. Anyway, if you found value in this video and would like my personal input on kickstarting your looks maxing journey, I'd highly recommend checking out my extremely affordable services over on my website with thousands of former customers and hundreds of 5-star reviews. There's 3 packages available, the first starting at just $5 to get a face rating out of 10, letting you know where you stand on this chart. Then the other packages are $15 or $25, including looks maxing advice, a full breakdown of your strengths and weaknesses, and of course your rating out of 10. If you're interested in any of these services, head over to my website. As I say, extremely affordable. Link will be first in the description. And if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you press the like button and leave any thoughts you have in the comments below on your way out, as it all helps the YouTube algorithm.